Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Demystifying Post-Production. And today I'm joined by Noseman.
From Witness Protection.
From Witness Protection, yeah. So he's still like Mr. X, in Mr. X mode. So, and I love it, actually. It's pretty cool to just see a silhouette. We should adjust point just... at some point do like a silhouette stream or something. Silhouettes can be quite cool. I mean, Ian can maybe tell you more about that because there's some silhouette stuff in ZBrush anyways. However, we are derailing this a little bit. So let me share my screen. And let's just do a little bit of the housekeeping before we jump into UV workflows. So today we're gonna unwrap something organic. And before we do that, I'm gonna show you a few websites here. So this is the Maxon events page. And you can go there if you go to maxon.net and then news, events, there we go. And then you can see all the live streams that we're doing, but also all of the live events where we are in person. And then just in case you saw that there is a live stream that you wanted to watch and you weren't able to watch it, you can always go to the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel because this is the place where we are hosting all the recordings of the sessions and more. And then if you are interested in more learning resources, or if you want to learn any of the other Maxon products, you can always go to Syniversity, and then you have Getting Started series for all of our applications here, which is quite neat. All right, and last but not least, I want to show you the Maxon merch store here. And the cool thing when you are watching this stream is that you can order one t-shirt for free. You just have to go to the website. If you go there for the first time, you will be asked to enter a coupon code, and I think Kyle in the background will share it. Thank you, Kyle. So Kyle is in the background producing the show. Let's give it up for him. Let's applaud a little bit in the background. So yeah, you can order one t-shirt for free, and then you only have to pay for the shipping. All right, that's pretty much it. So let's jump to Cinema 4D, or maybe let me go back to my browser. And the thing with organic UVs or UVing is that actually, if we go for a cow, car, pet or so, this is actually what unwrapping UVs is. You can also do the same thing with let's say a chocolate bunny unwrap. I don't know if did you show that earlier? Maybe let me go to image search. Here we go. So that's the bunny, that's the unwrap thing. This is what we want to do now with an organic model. So let me jump into Cinema 4D and show you how you can do this with an organic model. I mean, we had the last 2 episodes covering all the basics, and also last week we had UV unwrapping of hard surfaces, and today let's just try to unwrap UV unwrap this guy. It's Artista from the asset browser. So if you go to the asset browser and just search for Artista, so this is the model that I'm using here on purpose, so that you can also follow along if you're watching the recording and so on. So you have to remove a few things from this one, all of the rig and so on, but then you can follow along. So here I have my cleaned up version of this already. And let me just go to the UV edit mode. And here you can see a few things. So what I want to show you here is that this is the UV layout of the head, the original UV layout that has been used for this. But also the hands are on here. So it's not just the UVs of the head. So here's the head, that's one object, but the hands are another object. So what you can actually do is not just have the hands or the head in one UV space, but you can also, if I command select these, you can have more than one object in one UV space. So here you can see there's the hair, there is the mustache, there's the brows, there is the hands and the head, everything here. All right, and the cool thing is that sometimes you want to do this to have one texture, for example, for everything that is skin, and one texture for everything that is fabric, and so on. So I'm going to show you how you can do this. So first of all, let me delete all of the textures as well as all of the UV tags here. So here we go. Now it's all gone and we can start. So the eyes still have something, but I will leave that. All right. So the head, how would I start? Usually when we are talking about characters, I would say that in 99% of the time you have a character that is symmetrical. And that's something that, that I always use as an advantage. So the first thing I do usually is I go to the front view and just zoom in here, and you see that we don't have any UVs on this object yet. So what I do first is, let's concentrate on the head. I'm going to solo the head by clicking this button here. So now we have the head only. And then I'm going to click the gear icon here of set UV from projection. And I'm going to use the projection type frontal. And this is using the active view here. So let me do this. And now we have it here. And the good thing about this UV layout here is that it's 100% symmetrical. So now we could go to polygon mode and let's just double click it using one of these three tools here, move, scale, or rotate. And then, double click it to just select the whole island. So here we have the full island. Okay, so what's next? Now we need to create the cuts to unwrap this. Same as with a cow carpet or with the candy wrap. We want this to be flat in the end so that we can paint a texture or something for it. So the way I would do this is, starting with defining the seams that I want to use to cut. And there are a few little tricks that I want to show you. Actually creating these selections, these edge selections, is one of the main parts of unwrapping an organic object. So it's very good, it's just recommended to know the selection tools as well as possible, because this will make your life a lot easier. So let me go to edge mode and let's have a look at this model. So without really remembering what this UV layout looked like, I would say that it would be a good strategy here to cut off everything that is standing out in a very extreme way, the nose and the ears, because then this can-like head would be easy to unwrap. By the way, this whole character has been created by Can Erduman, who is a really great artist and rigger and animator. And he created a whole piece with this character, which is fantastic. So John, if you're here, shout out to you. Great job. Yeah, so I want to define a few seams that I can use for cutting here. And I want to start by cutting off the nose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the selection tools here. And
not the nose. No, not the nose.
oh, yes. Yes. So he's yeah, it took me a while, but he is some sort of noseman, isn't he? So
Gotcha.
let me just create a selection here. Let's go to here and then do the same thing again with Shift. Actually, we could just copy this over using Symmetry Selection, but I'm going to do this later anyway. So I'm going to go from here to there. And then I'm going to use the Loop Selection tool. And by default, it will create a full loop. And this is one of the situations where it's good if you know what types of options you have with the tools, because here in the loop selection, you have a few options, 3 checkboxes. One is stop at selections. We're going to use that here. If I enable this and do the same thing again, hold down Shift to edit to the existing selection, I just click. And now you can see that we already created a whole loop around the nose. All right. I'm going to show you another trick here, not with the loop not with the loop selection tool, but when you are, again, in one of these 3 tools, move, rotate, or scale, then you can also just shift click an edge, right? And it will be selected in addition. But then if you shift and control click another edge, let's say here, it will automatically create a selection or a connection from here to there. So this is also something that I really love. So now we already have something that could work. All right, so we would have one piece until here, and then there's going to be a cut. And now let's create, or let's use the same technique to create another cut. I'm going to shift click this edge here. And let's make sure that this is on the symmetry axis. And I'm going to go to the backside of the head and just shift control click this one here. And suddenly you can see, all right, this whole edge has been selected here, or this whole line has been selected, which is really, really neat. All right. Okay, that's looking good already. We still have the ears that are standing out quite a lot. So let me create a loop selection for the ears. And here it's a little bit more fiddly, I think, because the backside of the ear is, yeah, quite challenging when it comes to topology. But in this case, we can just use the loop selection. By the way, the shortcut is UL. So you hit the U key and then the L key. And then let's see. Okay, this is the outermost loop that we can select that is visible here, I think. So let's select this. And let's have a look here. So I want a connection, and I'm going to use the move tool here and just add these 2 edges to the selection. And now let's have a look down here. So actually, I would love to cut along this edge here as well. So let's go with the loop selection again, UL. And well, this is going to create a loop that doesn't make much sense. So let's try stop at poles. And let's see how far it will go. So here, it's going to go until here. This is a pole. A pole is basically a point that has more than 4 edges connected to it. Shift click here to edit. Then I'm going to use the same options here. Hold down Shift, click again here. And this should give me, well, yeah, didn't give me that one. Okay, but let me go to the move tool and let's just select a few other edges while holding down Shift. Okay, so now I think we have a full loop around the ear as well. And I think we can already start unwrapping this. So what we could do from here is simply press the Unwrap button. And now you see, okay, that's working quite well. It could be a little bit better. So let me undo this. And one thing that I always do when I unwrap characters that are symmetrical is I add some UV pins. So I'm going to switch to points mode. And I'm going to select a few points here. So let's select this one. The important thing is that they are on the symmetry axis. I'm going to select this one here. I'm going to select, let's see where the symmetry axis is, this one, and let's say this one. The good thing is that the front part of that character here is like pretty flat compared to like other characters you might have. However, by defining these selected points here as pins, and I'm going to do that using the Add UV Pins button here. Now they are turning red. If I now unwrap in Edge mode, it will automatically use the pins for the UV relax. And if I do that, it will keep these points here in the same relation to each other. So let me hit OK and show you what this means. So now these points here are still keeping the same distances and the same like angle between each other. And now we can see, all right, this worked quite well. Still, one thing that I forgot is to mirror the selection of this ear over to this ear. So I have to undo again. And in this case, I have to mirror. So I'm going to go to select and symmetrize the selection. The shortcut, funny enough, is UV. So maybe that's the reason for that is because you can now like memorize it better, because it's a very good one for the UV unwrap workflow. However, I'm just going to hit this, and now you can see that both of the ears have the selections now. Always be lazy. Always just do it on one side and then copy or symmetrize it over to the other side. Now, if I hit UV unwrap, you can see that this is actually already a pretty good and decent result. Let me zoom in this portion here, because one thing that we still need to take care of is this inner part of the mouth. So if we have a look in here, you can see that, yeah, the inner part of the mouth is part of the model. So we actually need to, yeah, cut this off as well. And I'm going to use the loop selection again, UL. And let's just select this one here and this one here. Don't know why that didn't create a loop. Maybe because one of these settings here. However, I'm also going to select the middle part here so that we don't have as much stretching here. All right, let's unwrap again. And now you see that this section is pretty good already, right? And down here, you can see the inner parts of the mouth. Okay, so what else can we do? Maybe, I think that this part could be a little bit less stretched, maybe. Well, let's try something. So one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch to points mode, and let me zoom in here. And let's just select this one, this point that has the UV pin on it, and remove this UV pin. And let me just try to UV unwrap again. So yeah, maybe that's a little bit better. Okay, so now that we are here, I want to show you again that this is a pretty a pretty iterative workflow. So just because you unwrap the UVs this way here doesn't mean that you cannot make any changes anymore. So let's just say, let me go to View and bring in Distortion. So now we can see the Distortion Map. And so everything that is blue is stretched, and everything that is red is like condensed. Oh, sorry for that. Just hit the microphone. All right. So yeah, I think up here we can remove some of the stretching maybe. And I would go ahead and try that. Let me just go back to lines and also clear the UV pins. I think we don't need them anymore. Oh, let's keep them. Let's keep them for now. All right, so what I want to do, instead of just having this one cut here that's going from the forehead until the back of the neck, I would love to have something that is more like here, like this, so that this part up here is just continuing from the forehead. So let me go back again to path selection, and let's just select this here, maybe until here. And let's just symmetrize it over to the other side again. Remember the shortcut, UV. So now we have it here. And let's just UV unwrap again. All right, cool. That looks good, but actually, I would love these parts here, or these. I want this cut not to be there. So let me go to the move tool again, just select this one, or and then shift control click this one, and then we get this line. And now we can say weld. We could only weld. This would make this, or you can UV weld and relax. And once you do that, you can see that this is happening. All right, so it looks good, but as you can see, the whole island here, the whole UV island is now, well, not aligned correctly anymore. I'm going to clear the UV pins now because I think this is good. So the cool thing is that we still have the symmetry axis selected here. And that means that we can just click the Align UV Islands button, and this will align it to, I'm not sure if it's 90 degree or 45 degree. I think it's 45 degree angles. But if you hit that, it will just snap the alignment to the next angle of, well, let me just try this. I'm actually not sure if it's 45 or 90 degrees. Okay, it's 90 degrees. Otherwise, it would have snapped to 45 now. All right. Okay, cool. Now we have, oh, it aligned the whole thing. All right, so no problem. We can still tell this to, well, actually that wasn't too good. I'm going to jump a lot back and forth here. That's usually my process to go back and forth. If I created something so that's just a natural part of the process. So let me align everything again. Oh, it doesn't do that. Okay, good. Well, in that case, I think we can just try to go with UV packing. I'm just gonna pack all of this again, and this is actually looking quite good. All right, maybe we could align the nose part as well. So let me select one of these edges and just align UV islands. Now we have this. We can do the same thing with this one, and maybe with this one. And now I want to show you something else. So one thing you can do if you are using UV packing in geometric mode is you can preserve the orientation. And yeah, now if I hit apply, it should preserve the orientation and then find the best way of packing these so that the maximum of the UV space is being covered by UVs. All right, so this is not looking too bad. I think we can go to the next one. I'm quite happy with this, but let me again have a look at the distortion map. And now you can see actually that this part up here has way less blue areas, so it's less distorted. There's always a trade-off between more cuts or more stretching or distortion. All right, let me maybe show you a few other of these modes here. So it starts with lines. You can also have a look if there are overlapping polygons. Could be the case here in theory if I had overlap identical or mirrored islands enabled. Then we have filled polygons.
May I interject?
Yes.
I'm getting a very blurry screen on my feedback from YouTube. Can anyone confirm if what they're seeing is a blurry version of the webinar, or is it just my connection for some reason, although it shouldn't be? Is it clear? Just an answer, because it's extremely blurry where I'm viewing it here.
So here in the back end in StreamYard, it's looking fine.
Not on StreamYard. Looks good to me. So, blurry. So, okay.
Not blurry at all.
The blurry ones are for some reason where the YouTube stream is coming from, not the StreamYard. Okay, it looks clear. Then any problems are probably local.
All right.
We can continue.
Okay, thank you. So, we are here in the view modes. So, overlapping polygons, as I said, shows you overlaps. Filled polygons is one that is actually pretty interesting and also important. So you can see that some of these UV islands here are gray and others are blue. Why is that? That's the direction of the polygons, the normal directions. So let me just select this island here and let's just mirror the UVs. All right, now this one is also blue. You can see that here. Okay, and what this is showing you is actually that the polygons are pointing away. So if you now are selecting one polygon on this side, on the, well, as we are looking at it on the right side of the face, you can see that here it's on the left side. So let's just say the character had a tattoo with some text in it. Then you would have to place the text in a mirrored way on the texture, which doesn't make sense. So whenever that happens, make sure you double-click the whole island, or double-click to select the whole island, and then you can simply fix this by mirroring the UV island. And I'm going to do the same thing with this island and with this island. Make sure that this doesn't cause any overlaps. I'm just moving these two apart a little bit. Okay, then multicolor island is also cool because this is a perfect way to see the connection between the UV islands and the respective part of the geometry. So this works fine as well. And yeah, the last one, I already showed that, is distortion. So always keep in mind that you have these modes, and usually I use all of them when I unwrap UVs because they're also so helpful. Okay, let me do a quick save here. And let me unwrap the hands now. So the hands, let me just make them visible here and solo them. And let's have a look. So the easiest way would just be to have one island for the top side and one for the bottom side. Let's see if that's possible with this mesh, simply by going to edge mode and then using UL, and maybe this time don't stop at poles, and just click here. And oh, look at this. Oh, Chan, if you modeled that, that's great work. Having a loop here is something I never managed to do when I created a hand. How about you, Noseman? That's perfect.
It's good. It's good. And funny enough, Jean just contacted me on Skype for another reason, and I said that you made compliments about him, and it made him very, very excited.
Maybe he's joining now.
I think, yeah, I'm sending him a link, so maybe he can join.
Do it. All right. So yeah, since we are selecting here, let's just mirror the selection over to the other side, again using the shortcut UV. And there we go. Now we have it on this side as well. Let me see that. Oh, look at this. I think it didn't get this one. Is that something that happened on the other side as well? Yeah, always double check your selections, because otherwise, or maybe let me undo this. Because this is something that can happen. And if it happens, you need to know how to see that. So let me just create a new UV from projection. Let's set it to frontal. Okay. Or in this case, it would have actually been better to go with flat so that it's symmetrical. Well, that's actually not super good. So yeah, let's still just work with this. And I'm only going to select the hands. And now let's just unwrap the hands. There we go. Okay, so this hand here is looking quite good, although it looks like the hand of an animal, or the what is it called? A paw?
A paw.
I'm
By the way, Jean is in the Max on Training team chat, and I introduced him. Everyone, can Erdogan, pronounced Jean Erdogan, my friend Johnny. Yeah, he's the person that created this character that exists in your asset browser.
Hi, Chan. Good to see you here. All right, cool. So now you see that we have a weird connection here. So this is how you can find out if something is, if the selection symmetrizing did work or not. In this case, it didn't. So in this case, you would clearly see that there is a problem here. So you could now just select these parts here. And yeah, I think now we have the full loop. Let's unwrap again. And there we go. All right. So this is perfect. And well, we could align these islands. We could do a lot of other stuff, but let me just show you how you would bring the hands and the head into the same UV space. And it's very simple. You just select both of them, and then you again go to UV packing, and well, let's preserve the orientations. Let's equalize the island size. Island sizes. What this means is that, so for example, one thing that could happen is for using as much space here on the UV as possible, that it's going to make one island a little bit bigger than the other. For example, one hand could be bigger as an island as the other, or the hand could be as big as the head, and that would mean that, in theory, the face could have more space on the UVs. So equalizing island sizes is something that I always recommend switching on. just because it's really helpful. And now I apply. And as you can see, the hands are now also part of that same UV texture space. And now you could use one texture, although it's two different objects, and paint the textures for the hands on it, as well as for the head. And there is no overlap between the two. So in here, you could even define the gap size. It's doing this by projecting this onto a 1K texture, so to speak, and then it would use a gap of 2 pixels. If you want that gap to be bigger, let's say 5 pixels, you can also do that. Now you can see that the gaps are a little bit bigger if you prefer that for texture painting. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do. Again, one thing that we should have done earlier is checking the direction with filled polygons. Let's see if there's one hand that is reversed. So here we go. So what I'm going to do now, again, you might have guessed it already. I'm going to go to polygon mode. I'm in the move tool. I'm just going to double click this island here. And now I can mirror the UVs. And as you can see, it's looking pretty decent. All right. And yeah, basically, I would just go on with all of the other objects as well. So yeah, but since we have a little bit of time left, because actually what I would do from here is more or less repeating what I already did, but let's just, so if you see that, and if you see the list here, just let me know which one you want to see me unwrap as well. And I'm going to pick the first one in the chat.
I can unwrap a dinosaur if you want.
You can also unwrap a dinosaur.
Yeah, I can unwrap a dinosaur.
Okay, anyone... let's unwrap a dinosaur.
Unwrapping a dinosaur. Yay! Okay, I'm stealing the screen from you.
Steal the screen.
Stolen screen. So you know that you have a dinosaur here called Mr. Rex. Go to Asset Manager, type Rex, and get this T-Rex. He's fun. I'm just going to go to a subset, which is the body. So let's just go to the body, copy it, go to a new document, paste it in, just so that we can focus on our dinosaur and switch to UV edit mode, right? Let's select this guy. You can see there are no UVs assigned to it. What I'm going to focus on is a question I get very often. How do we hide seams? Where do we hide the seams? And how do we hide the seams? And actually, I asked these questions in the wrong order. The general question is, how do we hide seams? Because regardless of the unwrapping we're going to do, and in this particular case, let's just go right-click, material, and set, and let's use the automatic packed UVs, right? This is the Ministry of Flat algorithm. And it seems quite odd. It's got, big connected parts and other parts. And I said this in one of the previous shows, but I would need to repeat it. The Ministry of Flat algorithm, the automatic UV packed, is optimized for 3D painting. It was not made for you to go and create textures here in Photoshop or whatever other image editing program you use. And what it tries to do is maximize your UV tile so you can get the best resolution and at the same time retain as much continuity as possible. Now, having said that, the advantage of using a painting program, regardless of what you're UVing, but mostly when you're doing organic shapes, is that you don't deal with the UVs at all. You deal with the object itself. And any painting you would do over seams, then the software itself, the painting software is going to make sure that it's going to project on the brush stroke on the 2 polygons, which in this particular case, you can see they're in different positions. Now, we can even use our own built-in body paint. And it's a bit tricky to use. You need to do some things. If there's enough interest, if people are not using third-party programs, and you can use body paint to cover some of the seams if you wish to do so. But I'm not going to talk about this any more than I have. I'm going to tell you what my advice is and the general concepts around where do we put the seams so that they're not very visible, and then we can just go and just cover up any ones that are visible using our 3D painting or whatever other software we use. So let's go back here. Let's remove this. And just like with the Artista and Jonas's example, let's just start with a very simple projection. I'm going to go with a frontal projection. I don't care, to be honest with you. So we can start wherever we want. It doesn't make a difference. The reason we use, oh, that's so cool. I love this. The reason we use a frontal projection is that if the model is a watertight model, it will just, we can go here and do a frontal. It will give you a model without any
You see,
seam.
big noses are a thing with the models here. Right?
Har, har, har. So, contrary to the process that Jonas showed, which is a valid workflow where you define your seams right off the bat, I personally like to go in a more iterative way. So I start with a watertight model, whatever I'm doing, and then I start breaking it apart piece by piece. And at the same time, I'm fixing certain things. So I just double click to create my loops. And what you will see is that it stops here because the model is not purely symmetrical. It has this quad here. So I'm just going to use my knife, KK, slice it down, go back to my move tool, shift and double click to continue the selection. And hopefully this whole thing wraps around, right? If it doesn't, we're going to see it. Now it doesn't, but I'm pretending I don't know that because it has these complex poles here and it doesn't know where to move. So it stops here. If I unwrap this now and I make sure that I have nothing selected unless I need a selection, and in edge mode, make sure that restricted polygon selection is off if you want the unwrap to happen to all the polygon components. If this is on, then it will do them in the selected components. So I'm going to turn this on and off as I desire. So press OK here, and we see you can see just like what Jonas showed earlier. We're getting this overlap because it's not unwrapping everything. But this is a good indicator of how I need to move forward. Make sure you have your move tool. Just you can either add these to the selection or just go and select these two because I still have the other seams over here. So I'm going to add this cut here. So just UV unwrap, and it's going to split these two now. Right now, everything is extremely, extremely distorted. So we have this here. This here is an arm or something like that. This is another arm. So this is not a good UV unwrap. We're going to have extreme amounts of distortion here in various places. So let's continue. I'm going to leave this on because it's more colorful. And I'm going to continue with my model. Sometimes I like to go and use hidden line. It makes the model easier for me to read, and maybe you can turn on your screen space ambient occlusion to look into these little areas. And the other thing I like to do is keep my select open so I can click here and symmetrize my selections and whatnot. Now, let's start detaching all those areas which have, they're protruding. The body in general, if you subtract the limbs, it's fairly a cylindrical configuration. So let's go and subtract the legs. Now you can see that the best ways to hide the seams, if you want to remove the whole leg, is areas that are not very much visible. These can be inside the creases or the back, depending on where your model is going to be viewed from in its hero positions. Because if we're having a secondary background dinosaur that's walking in the background eating a couple of people, which is terrible on itself, but this is all fake, so don't be afraid. And dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years ago. Now, in this particular case, any texture issues, they won't be really visible, so you can hide them. But if you have a hero shot of the dinosaur's bum, maybe that's not the best place to cut, and maybe you need to detach it here in the front or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to go with the presumption that we're viewing the dinosaur from an angle like this. So anything that is creased or anything that's behind his quadcep or something like that, his quad is fair game. So let's go and do some selection. So I'm just going to, I use the Control Shift on the PC and just go incrementally. So I'm going to go down here, Control Shift and click. I'm going to go under here, Control Shift and click, and I'm going to make small selections. You're going to see that here at the back now we have this little issue where it's not wrapping around exactly as I would like it to. So I'm going to divert my selection a bit here, do this, and do this, and that's Control Shift or Command Shift on the Mac. And there you go. I created that seam, which is going to be on the back. Now I'm going to symmetrize it immediately, and here it is on the back, and just do this. And now it's going to disconnect these two legs. Now, again, this is a very long watertight object, so I need to decide what I need to detach. A good place when you have any kind of animal or stuff like that is to detach the claws, because there is a logical transition from flesh to nails and claws and any keratinous material. So you're going to have a transition of materials over here. So that's a good place to go and cut it out. So let me double click on this and create this loop here. There you go. That's a good loop. And let's go and shift double click here and go to the third one and shift double click here. So I have these three loops. Let me symmetrize it and let's detach it by just clicking on the UV Unwrap. And there you go. I have my 4 little claws here. Now, whether you want to further unwrap the claws, although you are going to have a lot of distortion here as indicated by the colors, and that's because you can see that we have this weird shape. Look at right, if you go right in here, you see these little quads, which is these, and then these polygons around here are a bit smaller here. They've contracted. Oops, undo. They've contracted. So maybe it's wise in this particular case to say, well, you know what? I'm going to actually split this into even more components. So you can select these here, and let's go all the way here, and we can see it goes all the way to the seam, and UV Unwrap this. And now you will see that we're getting a much less distortion. But if distortion was not your problem and your problem was mostly continuity, you wouldn't do this. So it's up to you to select what you want to do. In this particular case, I don't know. I'm going to have some fun, and I'm going to just shift click to select these over here. And let's go to the third one. It's fairly quick to do. So shift click here, 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 and just go in here, symmetrize the selection, and UV Unwrap all the nails in one go. Claws, sorry, they're not nails. They're not fingers. These are, what are these? Paws, whatever they are. Now, the other thing, another interesting place where you can cut things up, just like Jonas showed, especially in animals, is hooves and the bottom parts of the feet, whatever you call these things. So I'm going to go right in here, and you can see I can see the two seams where they meet up, and you can start cutting around here. Just create a path as it goes around, and maybe go this way, and maybe go, I don't know, this way. And I'm pressing Control and Shift to continue those, and down here and down here. I'm just following the natural flow of how this is going. Now, did I do this properly, or did I? Yep, it's going all the way around from one side to the other. I'm going to shift click on this, Control Shift click to go to this seam. Then let me go and shift click on this, go to the other little toe, finger, whatever, and do that. And then shift click here and Control Shift click here. You just need to be aware of the topology of your object. I'm moving fast because this is something whose topology I know pretty well.
For that claw, you already did it. I think the
What?
Now you're gonna cut the nails again. For
yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. So
that's what you want to do. Okay.
Live selection. No, I didn't want to do that. I just forgot. So live selection tool, press Control, and you can remove from the points where, because I want my claws to stay as they are. So I just want to limit my selections to everything else, because I just want to remove the bottom. Thanks for the reminder. Apparently I've done it enough times, but not enough. So there you go. And again, it's a simple process because we're going to symmetrize this. So we only do the selection once. So Control and go down here, just navigate around, and there we go. So now I can symmetrize my selection and go and tear these off. Now we have these unwrapped feet. And let me see what this is. So I see something here, and probably Oh, that's the rest of the leg. Look at that. All the rest of the leg over there. This is that part. Yep. And I'm going to continue now fixing that as well. So what's the best way to go with this particular configuration? Well, I think I'm going to go and tear right here at the back, get the edge mode, Control Shift again to move it up here, Control Shift up here, and you go all the way around where I touch the other seams. And I think now, and I can symmetrize. I don't need to undo. I can symmetrize the selection because the symmetry works only in the 3D view and then unwrap again. Now I should have both legs unwrapped. And these, although they do have a certain amount of distortion, the distortion, in my view, isn't bad enough to stop you from using this with some sort of texture, because there is a general flow if you want to do, any particular pattern going downwards. If you do need to stretch this out, there are a few ways, either by adding seams or by moving some points and then relaxing them and so forth. Anyway,
yeah, when you have a look at the backside of the knee, for example, right, where there is a lot of it's compressed a lot, but if you have a look at this, like from a UV perspective, or you want this to be as even as possible, then it's totally fine to go with a mesh that is like more homogeneous. Let's put it like that.
And by turning on, yeah, go ahead.
The Dinosaur might also like stretch the legs at some point, and then you still need enough UV space back there.
Exactly. And by turning on your gaussian lines, you're projecting the distortion or whatever filter you have here, any view you have here, like multiple islands to see each object, what island it is, and so forth. You're just adding that to the 3D view, so you know what's going on. So I can stick with this, so I can put on distortion, whatever helps you. Now let's move on to the hands very, very quickly, because I do need to detach them. And where exactly I'm going to detach them doesn't really matter. Again, it has to do how you're going to rig this, which parts are going to fold inwards and have the various let's say wrinkles and stuff like that. So depending on how you're going to texture this, you can decide which loop to cut. And of course, it makes a huge difference how the model was, how it was modeled in the first place. So I can go either incrementally, as I am now, symmetrize and unwrap. I'm just tearing out the hands. I'm going to put this on groups, so multicolored islands, so I know in the 3D view exactly which parts are disconnected, and I don't have to go and search for the white seam lines. Now let's go here, and what I'm going to do now, you can see I'm going to retain the selections on this side and on this side, and I'm going to use what Jonas showed, the UL, and stop at selections. And this is going to just make it a bit faster for me to go and select, let's say, these two components here. So it's going to go all the way around, and it's going to stop at the selections. It's unfortunate that we don't have a stop at seams, as far as I know, but this method, combined with a secret tool, if you press Shift-C and you type seams, you can select all UV seams.
You can not only select loops in the 3D view, you can also select loops in the UV or in the texture view, and
yes, you can.
That way, you could stop at seams. Yeah.
Yes, that is true. So let's. So nothing is selected here. These are the two things. The problem is I don't know which one is my proper seam here. So if I double click here, well, I selected another island here. So this seems to be it. Undo. Double click. Undo. Move tool. Double click. There you go. If you know what you're trying to find, you will find it. And then you can use the symmetrize to transfer in the 3D view the selection over here. And then you can UV unwrap this. And you can see that slowly but surely, you're unwrapping your model in a way that's convenient for you. In this particular case, I didn't detach the claws. Again, it's alternative ways, whatever you want to do. Now, sometimes, just sometimes, yes, go ahead, Jonas.
You were saying no, you go ahead.
Okay. Maybe sometimes you decide that, I don't want these detached. I want them semi-attached. So what you can do, you can go and select the edges you want to reattach. Let's say I want these over here up to this point to be attached, and maybe this one, this one, this one, and this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to UV weld, and then I'm going to UV unwrap the polygons, or I can relax them. So I can go here and say, okay, no UV pins, no selected edges, just apply a certain relaxation to this. And now I've connected these two parts, right? It's by no means good, but you can actually do that if you want to have fewer seams and have things a bit more disconnected, especially if you're doing 3D painting. So that could be a method you can use. But all these are alternatives. Now, moving on. So we have this configuration up to this point. It doesn't have too many islands. Where I find that it's extremely problematic is the mouth. The inner part of the mouth is cut. Now, we do know that there are going to be some teeth here, and the mouth has a different texture. So there's no reason for the inside of the mouth to be part of the rest of the body, because it's we're going to texture it with, it's not going to have scales. As far as we know, dinosaurs that didn't have scales inside their mouths. So what we can do in this particular case is strip them out, strip out the inner part. So let's go and find a nice little loop that defines the inner part of the mouth. So I'm going to go and double click on this, and this goes around this way. So I don't want that one. I want this one. So you can see it goes all the way around here. Shift double click. Let's see how far this is going to take us. You can look at the line and again change the hidden lines to make it a bit more obvious. I'm going to do something equivalent on the other side. So shift double click here. And I think with a couple more shift double clicks, I've got the whole loop selected. And that's absolutely fantastic, because now I can detach these, and I'm getting a bit of a better inside unwrap of the mouth. Or because I've got these two little bits of cheek over here, I can even go and detach these. If you don't want to detach these, then just undo, go back to the previous one, and you can go and you can cut the mouth right here. So shift and control, shift click, and shift. Good. And let me symmetrize this selection, and then let's go and control remove this part of the selection. So it's just a process of selecting or deselecting the right edges, and control. There you go. So this should deselect. There you go. Now the mouth is a bit better, and we have these two.
That's going really good.
These two halves here, right? We have these two halves. So I need to weld them right in the middle. So how can we do that? Well, the easy way is select one. So I want to weld all this seam that goes all the way to the other side, and I want to do it the lazy way. Select one edge here, go to the other side. I don't even know if it's easier, but I'm going to show it anyway. Select the one outside that, this one, and then I can use the loop selection with stop at selections, and without any shortcuts, click here, and we have these two edges, these two seams selected, this one and this one. Now I can UV weld and relax, and this is what it's going to do. It's going to do the UV weld, and then it's going to relax it, but we have this unified command to do that. And yeah, pretty much I can see that the dinosaur now is not badly unwrapped, right? We have, let me select
No, it's
another
quite
tool.
decent.
It's quite decent. Now, nostrils are notorious because, like, it's the opposite of protrusions. Whoops. Let me just frame default. Because eyes, so you can see eyes, because of the eyelids and all that, those would be good to separate, to allow a bit of relaxation, and nostrils. So let's do that. I'm going to go, I think I prefer to go where there's a transition. So I'm going to double click on this, symmetrize the selection, do the same for the eyes. I'm going to go and select where the eyelid, shift, double click, and symmetrize, and then unwrap. And this is going to detach the eyes. Did I forget something? I don't see them heavily detached. Maybe it's something with the symmetrize tool. Nope, looks good, but I think I know what's going on here. Let me cut the inside of the lid or the outside. I'm going to go and cut this and symmetrize it and see if that's going to give me a better result here. What do we have here with these little polygon islands? Deselect everything and let me double click. Whoops, polygon mode, double click on this to get this island, move it out and go here and press S, zoom out because I need to find, so it's the nostrils that are giving me trouble. Oh yeah, because they're watertight. You can see they go inside, but this is going to be hidden. So it shouldn't
So let
be
me quickly interject. The shortcut S is going to frame the selected polygons in your viewport.
Yep, it will. So if you're on the other side and you press S here, it's very difficult to see. So always make sure that you pull out a bit, press S. If you don't see it, that means it's on the other side. It's because you're viewing the polygons from the wrong side. S also works in your object manager. If you have a selection of an object with a very long hierarchy, you press S here and it will bring that object in the active window of the object manager. So we have our little nostrils here. Let me go and detach these. I do not know why they didn't get detached, but it's an island, so you can double click on it and you can move it somewhere else. And that's a way to detach polygons as well. If for any reason you want to detach an area of your model, let's say I want to detach these little cheeks here, you can select the cheeks and you can just use your move tool to move them out, and immediately that detaches them. There is a way to keep them, keep neighborhood components. If I click on this, you can see now it's doing that, but this is the default. So basically now you have a not so bad unwrapping. Now the question is, well, is there anything we can do to, make this a bit better, maybe even overlap the symmetrical UVs? The answer is maybe, if you know that your model is very much properly symmetrical. So first of all, let's go and look at filled polygons to identify if any of these polygons here have the reverse normals, and not normals, sorry, they're reversed overall, and you can see that they are. So just go here and where's my mirror U? Now that one, mirror U, and that's all you have to do. If the lines are interfering with what you see here and confusing you, you can always go and turn off the lines, get rid of the UV mesh, and now everything is much clearer. You can even turn off the seams. So I can go here and say, I do not want to see seams. And now you can see that the colors are much more visible. So select this, mirror U. Oh, that's interesting. Mirror U. Right. I think we stumbled upon a feature where you can hide it by double clicking on it. I'm just joking. That shouldn't happen, but it did. So, hey, what can I say? But it's quick enough to go and identify these little areas. And providing your model is symmetrical, what I advise you do, and let's show the UV mesh, is find the equivalent polygon that has the same, let's say, orientation as on both of these islands. What do I mean? Let's go and find. Let's go here. Let's go and select this little edge. Now you'll see that this edge is selected over here. And this edge is also selected over here. And I can align both these UV islands. And this should bring them in a symmetrical configuration. Because if the edge is exactly the same, then they will both be aligned on that edge. This means that if I take one of my two islands here and flip it around that way, and then use my snapping, Shift S, to move. Let's go and select, Control click to select all the points. And I'm going to move this with my snapping on. Did I click snapping on? Shift S. Now snapping is on. There we go. So we are getting, it's not perfect but it's good enough if you want to do UVing. And you can bring one on top of the other. And pretty much, especially for 3D painting, this is quite convenient. Now, sometimes you want to have a different texture on one side and a different texture on the other side. I'm going to get rid of my Shift S, my snapping, turn it around, and just make sure that they are placed in, let's say, symmetrical positions, or positions where you can copy and paste one of the textures and just flip it along. Again, there's no reason you should be working with your UVs correctly, so to speak, oriented, unless you have readable components. So text or anything that has orientation, because text, if you reverse it, it reads like a mirror. But if you're doing just simple textures, you don't have to do that. And you can get away with just having your UVs flipped. Those do not affect the normals. It's just how the UV is going to read the texture underneath it. So you can have these two at the same orientation. You can create a texture in your favorite software for this one, then make a copy of that in your image editor, and then add some different, let's say, colorizations or brush strokes to make it slightly different than it is.
Regarding the textures, we had one question by, I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Guillermo? Can we explain what to do when texturing to avoid the cuts of the textures between the UVs?
Yep.
The answer is
let me show a couple of things. Right. Let me show a couple of things. So I'm going to put everything in their right configuration. Right. I'm going to go to my UV packing to make sure I have no overlaps, and I'm going to use the geometric, which is the bounding box takes big blocks, rectangle blocks, and creates the packing, whereas geometric takes the outline of the object. So it's much tighter. Now I'm going to increase the gap size to, let's say, 10, just to make the gaps between 20. I want to do it 20. Apply. Now this just makes the gaps larger and allows for a bit of bleeding. The correct way to fix the seams is to use a 3D painting software. There's no other real way of doing it, because even following this line in Photoshop could become problematic, because you have to do the same brushstroke on this side and the same brushstroke on the other side. So it's quite unfortunate, but once you have your UV unwrapping, any 3D painting software would allow you to do that. So let's see what we can do here. Let me think. The easiest way, there is a way for Cinema 4D to export this as a Photoshop file.
Yeah, you can do projection mapping in body paint.
Yeah, I don't want to directly do projection mapping. What I want to do is create a texture in Photoshop, for example, and then use 3D painting to correct it. So I want to show both ways. That is at least what I'm thinking about doing here. So let me select all these and add, let's create a material first of all. So let's create a material. When we're in the UV layout, we get a material here. So let's double click and create a material. Now you can see that this is not active. If I activate it, now I think that in this image, let's go in here, and I'm going to use, you can go to the texture and create a new texture. This is going to create a Photoshop or a TIFF file, and you can go and save it somewhere. Or another thing you could do before you do this, and I can just remove this from here, is go to the wizard. So there is a body paint wizard here. If you go to the paint and you click on this little star here, the paint setup wizard, this is going to do various things for one or more models. And you just click next. You decide which UV mapping you want, and I don't want to recalculate.
By the way, since we had that question as well, somebody asks if there isn't an easier and faster way to unwrap UVs, and automatic packed UVs would be that way. This would unwrap your model like with a single button click, but you then don't have the advantage of a layout that let's say that is good for painting.
Yeah, it's only for painting. There's absolutely no. You may get away with using standard 2D painting programs, but it's going to be extremely difficult for you to do that. The predominant reason why the Ministry of Flat, the automatic UV unwrapping exists is for 3D painting. That's it. So turn off recalculate
Quick painting,
because then it will take the UVs you already have, and you can tell it which channels you want. I'm just going to go for the color for now, and it tells you 1024 is good enough. Finish, close, and it creates this material. So if I go here, we should have a material which is ready to paint. Right, I can go and paint here. So this is the standard painting mode. Let's go back to painting mode. I'm not going to go too deep inside this. The pixelization you see has to do with a 1K texture we decided to use. So currently, if I paintbrush here, a color, and you can go to colors and select what color you want, right? You can see that when I cross that threshold, it creates that gap because it's trying to anticipate where the mouse is touching. And when it crosses over, it paints only on the polygons that are on this side. Now, don't forget that if you go to the texture here, and I'm going to go and load my matte color, look at this. I'm painting on this side, and then automatically it switches to this side, and it creates that weird seam. But there's a solution for this. You can go and do projection painting. And now with this new interface, I need to find, I think, where's my projection painting? Where's my projection painting? Where's my projection painting? I've lost my projection painting. It used to be, come on, Jonas, you have to help me out here. With the new interface, I don't know where the projection painting is.
Isn't it in the top left? Let me quickly see where.
Brush, color. Oh, interesting. I do not know where the projection painting is.
This one it is. Isn't it that?
Where?
One that you right next to the asset browser?
This one here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it says on the bottom left. So here's a lesson for me to remember. Look down here on the left. Projection painting. There you go. The projection painting, you can see the brush size changes, and it doesn't differentiate between the two polygons. What it does, it takes a snapshot of the view we have of the object. That's why the brush sort of disappears when we escape the object, and creates that dab continuously. So the process of fixing your seams, and we can go and see the seams, sort of we can at least see where the polygons are. You would go to Photoshop and add, and I can do this. If I save this, I'm going to pull this on the other side and go and find today's project. I'm going to call this, I'm just writing a name here, Rex. I'm going to save. And it says, it asks me, do you want to save changes to the textures of Project Rex? Because we created using the wizard, the painting texture, then Cinema 4D now is responsible for saving that. Now I'm going to say yes. And if I go to that folder, I'm going to just pull it up so you can all see it. And Project Week 3. And if I go here, you will see matte color. This is the texture that was created. So let me bring up Photoshop now. So I'm going to bring up Photoshop. It's firing up. And at the same time, we have certain tools. I'm not going to go too much in this. This is not a UV tutorial, but I'm giving you some pointers so maybe you can look into it. If I'm
well, it is a UV tutorial.
No, it is. It's not a body paint tutorial. Sorry. If you go here, because we are now saving on that texture, we have the ability to create UV mesh and add it as a layer. What this is going to do, this create UV mesh layer, it's going to add a layer on top of all this with our lines. So it's going to save this texture. You can save things from here as well. So save texture, it's going to save it in the Photoshop file, and you're going to see it immediately. If I go here and load my matte color, just bringing it in, this is the one I just created. Look at that. It has a UV mesh layer. And this UV mesh layer is our guide to creating our painting on the correct parts of the model. So I can start creating here all sorts of different layers and choosing different colors and pasting all sorts of different materials. I'm going to make, I'm going to put this, let's say I'm going to make his head green. I can pull this on top so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to make the other part of his head, let's say blue. Oops, wrong layer. There you go, blue. Good.
I think there was just a technical glitch. Not sure.
I'm gonna save this, and I'm gonna go back to Cinema 4D. What glitch? What just
I
happened?
think it had to reload our cams, and you froze for a while, at least here.
Okay.
But maybe that was just on my
The
end.
Revert texture to saved is going to bring in my new texture, right? Here's everything. Now, by the way, in case you didn't know, we have not these layers, but in the UV paint, we have a different set of layers where we can use Cinema 4D like Photoshop, just in case you didn't know. But let me press Shift C and type layers, and somewhere in here we're gonna have where's my layers? Where's my body paint layers? I can't find my body paint layers now. So paint, brushes, where are my layers? Should be here. Not
It's
sculpt.
in where the attributes are, layers.
Oh, it changes to right. So
yeah, when you're in the paint layout.
This is body paint. Body paint is a full painting software. So I'm going to remove my UV mesh layer. I'm just going to make it invisible. Now you can use your various brushes, which are very similar. We have a clone stamp. We have blur tool. There you go. Blur tool sounds good enough. Let me middle click and drag. Now I'm going to start blurring my image here. It's not blurring my image here. Attributes, blur radius. Why is it giving me such a hard time? These are the finicky things. I'm in layers, projection painting layer. No, I want to paint in this layer. Make this, I think it was the wrong layer selection. Let's see, is this going to blur? It's not blurring.
I'm not sure if blur is going to work across UV schemes.
It should work with a projection layer. Anyway, let's try something else. Middle mouse and do that. Let's get a nice little brush and start painting here with some sort of color, or you can paint with textures. There are many things you can do. You can use stencils and stuff like that. So there are ways to go. Let me see if this is going to work with control and paint here. Yeah, it's giving me a pretty hard time doing this. Yeah, this, as far as I know, this should work with projection.
Yeah, clone stamp should work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. So yeah, we need to figure this out, or someone else needs to figure this out. The idea, in theory, is that you would be able to go and do various fixes on the seams, which my whole process of what I was showing just got totally destroyed.
Still, I mean, you showed how to use projection painting with just painting color, which is already something that might help a ton of people for, just painting the textures of their characters and other assets.
Well, I'm not enjoying this. So yeah, apparently just used a brush with no hardness and maybe I use, let's say, opacity, smaller opacity. Let's select a sort of a green color, and you can go and correct the seams, get a blue color, bring it over here. So there are ways to do it, but I would have hoped that it would work a bit better. You can change. So now we're painting the actual model. If I hide this, this allows me, I'm picking colors using the control with the eyedropper, picking the green and doing this, picking the blue and doing this. So after you've done the process, you can actually go and fix the various little seamy things. So I guess at least partially my method, I'm able to show my method here. So there is a
absolutely.
way where you can use a hybrid between your painting software and Cinema 4D's body paint. And there you go. We're hiding the seams now by creating sort of a blending texture right on our model. So we don't have to worry about these two islands being, in totally different positions. You can see that body paint takes the connected polygons, this one here and this one here, and allows you to do those crossovers if you are in projection painting mode. So yeah, Brandon Smith, this about sums up body paint in the C4D. Needs to be reworked. I shouldn't comment on that because I agree. I agree with you. Okay, Brandon. Yeah.
All
So,
right. So
having said that, do I have anything else to say? Well, other than introducing a mini Photoshop inside Cinema 4D, and one thing, just encyclopedic knowledge, that certain Photoshop plugins can actually be loaded in. I don't know if it's the older generation, but some of the plugins that Photoshop has do work in body paint. I do not know to which extent. This was something that was a highlight feature years ago. But there are ways to do things, especially these very simple colors, crossover colors with little brushes and all that stuff. It's fairly interesting. But to bring the subject back to UVs, it is very important to know what your process is going to be. If you are going to use a 3D software, a 3D painting software, something like Substance Painter or something like that, then the actual configuration of your UVs doesn't really matter, because the software is going to take care of how to project on the correct UVs when you're painting, right? When you're doing your proper painting, the software is going to define that. So the best unwrapping you can do is the UV pact, because it creates an unwrap which is ideal for 3D painting, as much as it's not ideal for manual human interaction. So yeah, if your process, if you want it to be structured for specific reasons, maybe you're unwrapping someone's hand. And this is something I did years ago for a model. I wanted a hand texture, so I took photos of my palms and the top of my hands and the fingernails and all that, and I just unwrapped my UVs to comply to the photos, although the hand sizes were slightly different. So depending on what the process is of what you're trying to do,
I did that too. Yeah.
yep, you have to choose what's the best method for you. So yeah, you can take back the
All
screen,
right.
which I'm looking for questions.
Yeah, I'm going to take. Well, I have to wrap up, to be honest.
Really?
I have another thing in 5 minutes. So
Ooh.
we had just one question that was about the project files. I'm just going to show you where you can find them, because both of them were part of the asset browser. So just click that button here in the upper left, the asset browser, and if you search for Artista, if I can type correctly, so this one here is the one that I was using, and T-Rex, this one is the one Noseman was using. So if you want to watch this again and follow along, these are the two that you can use to follow along.
I
All
want
right.
to wait. 1 minute. 1 minute.
Yeah.
Ask a quick question. So using the projection painting, you could create lines. So let me quickly make the opacity 100% and change my color to, let's say, white. You can use, I'm pressing shift now, and I'm painting on my dinosaur. There you go. Now, with projection painting, you need to make sure that you can view everything, and it's view dependent. But overall, you could go and do all sorts of painting things. You can paint on different channels. You can paint on the bump channel. You can paint on the mission channel. So you can do that concurrently by activating on what channels. Yeah, body paint is quirky, but has some features. And that's where I end my ramble. And Jonas, back to you.
Let me quickly jump over here, and there we go. All right, let's just wrap up and do the housekeeping. So if you enjoyed this live stream and other live streams, you can always go to the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel, actually, and watch the recordings here. And if you also want to see what's up next, you can also see that either here or our live streams and other events, live events, can be seen on the Maxon events page. News, events. Here we go. There we have the DAT, for example, in Montreal tomorrow.
Tomorrow. I'm presenting there. I'm showing espresso and thinking particles.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So yeah, go to the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel if you want to catch up with some of the live streams. Go to Cineversity if you want to watch other tutorials as well for all Maxon apps, including the Getting Started series for all of the programs. And last but not least, again, I'm going to show the merch shop. And there is a coupon code that you can use to while going onto the page. And then this will allow you to order one t-shirt for free, and you would only have to pay for the shipping. And that's pretty much it for today. I think the link is going to be pasted in there by Kyle again. Oh, he already did it. Thank you, Kyle. Kyle is working here in the background, producing the stream. Thank you, Kyle, for doing that.
The only reason anything works is because of Kyle.
Is him.
Me and John are talking to each other, not knowing that there's a big disaster going on. It's not unheard of. So thank you very much, Kyle, for making this happen. Without you, we are useless.
And also, thank you, Dr. Sassi, for always doing the great timestamps for all of our live stream recordings. That's incredibly helpful. And with that being said,
the recorded sessions,
everyone watching this.
The recorded sessions are only on the Maxon Training Team. Let's say that. So you may be watching this on the Maxon YouTube channel or the ZBrush YouTube channel. If you want to watch the replay of it, you'll find on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel. And that's how we allow people to watch them. So everything is in one place. And that's what I have to say.
All right. And that's it for today. So see you next time, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Bye from Witness Protection.
Bye.